Thanks for stopping by Big Top Gaming. My name is Brian, and in this video, I wanted to talk about building a community for Warmachine or wargaming in general. So I see that Warmachine's kind of on the rebound, and a lot of metas or micro metas or subsections of metas are trying to get back into the swing of things. And it's not that I'm the expert on community building, nor do I think that the information that I'm going to present to you is kind of like a surefire step-by-step thing. There's a lot of variables that come into building metas. Sometimes you get lucky, and sometimes you have a lot of barriers to break through. But this is kind of the formula that I've followed, or at least the activities I engaged in order to take myself from a 2 or 3 person meta to at the height of our very local meta having 30 Warmachine players. And this same thing has taken us from 0 to about 140k players. So I think that there might be some value here for folks who are interested in trying to learn how to build their own community. So the first thing I like to establish is kind of finding a location where I'm going to complete these activities. For me, we live in a really small rural area and are really lucky to have a local game store, at least that I'm friendly with, and they've been really supportive in trying to allow me the width to do things at our local store. But there have been some other folks who are not so lucky in the area who don't have a local gaming store to organize at. They've done things like start up groups at their local rec center, and that's worked out pretty well from them. Or if you have like a club structure, like I think a lot of places in the UK kind of utilize a club. I mean, even like a American Legion or something like that. I don't know, any kind of social space that's in the community where you could do things like this. A lot of them are pretty amenable to setting things up if you have a like a specific night and that there's availability for them, especially if you're bringing in your own stuff. With settling on a location, you want to make sure that you advertise that your group is doing things. And you can see this is an old picture of our local game store. And just as a customer walking in, you would imagine that a lot of Warhammer and some bolt action gets played here. But at the time when this photo was taken, there was way more Warmachine happening than either of those games, probably even both those games combined at the time. And one of the things that we utilize to let people know that things are going on there is the organizer can't be there all the time to let everyone know who walks in, this is what we're doing. So if by the Warmachine product, we had just a sign that said on Wednesday, or I think it was Friday nights back then. Friday nights, we played Warmachine starting at like 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And that at least was able to let people know without us being there and without the store worker informing them what day that game was taking place. I think that it's really, if you can get the buy-in from your the game store manager or owner to put something up like that, just to say like, this is when this stuff happens, come on in, check it out, that goes a long way in being able to catch people that you wouldn't normally be able to, considering you're not there all the time. The other big important part for me was creating a central organization point. When we started with Warmachine back then, this was mid-Mark II, we had a Facebook page where the local folks would organize, and that Facebook page had like a link and a QR code that was attached to some advertisement. And that just allows people to organize their games outside of just showing up on that random Friday night to come play and hoping they catch a game. Some metas are large enough to do that. You know, back in the heyday with Madison, you would walk in and there'd be 40 people playing Warmachine, and it would be likely that you'd be able to catch a game in as long as there was a table open, right? But I don't think we have that luxury anymore with the proliferation of so many different war games. I think Discord's kind of turned into the not industry standard, but it's definitely a place where a lot of nerds gather. We have a local Discord group or Discord channel for wargaming in general. And then there's definitely a Wisconsin-based Discord channel for folks to pop into, and we have that split out in regions so that people can find folks in the state that can play the game. I think the other big reason for having one of these like social media central organization points is that you can tie that directly to that sheet that I had been talking about earlier, so that people then can immediately get that entrance. They don't have to wait for the week to come around or that day to come around where they can come in and check out the game and try to plan and make sure that they're able to get there. This way, they just get to pop in right away, get their questions answered, maybe even set up a demo game before that weekly night comes up. I just think having something like that is invaluable in order to catch people that are coming in. Once you've got your place figured out, you kind of want to do this almost at tandem while you're looking for a location, but find a partner. The Ethan and Tyler have both been people who've popped on the channel for battle reports here and there, and they were the first people that I smashed Warmachine into in the early days of my Mark II discovery of Warmachine. We ended up just kind of coming out to the store and consistently playing at that store until more people would either just check out the game and then get interested in it and then start picking it up and then becoming the next person that we end up playing against. Once you've kind of got your battle buddy, so to speak, you can choose to set up that recurring game night. And you just want to have something consistent where folks will eventually just understand that on that specific night, there will be at least someone out in the store playing Warmachine. Someone they can either get the game in against or they can check a game out between two people. I think that's really important when it comes to trying to set up the community growth trajectory, is making sure you're consistent. With that, you want to make sure that you always show up. Now, I'm not saying you need to fight through sickness or bad weather to come to the game store or shirk your family responsibilities because it's game night, but making sure that you are always in the store at that time, like always in it with the asterisks. Making sure you're in the store just ensures that you're going to catch someone if they come in. It's all about just being present and being available to make that game accessible to folks. The other part about this is you also want to be really patient. I think that it's tough to grow a community. They don't happen overnight. And again, some people are more lucky than others. If you're in a really densely populated area, it might be easier to catch more people that are interested in the game or just in wargaming in general. Whereas with some of these more rural areas, it's not very likely that you'll find another person in your town that is into wargaming. We're lucky enough that we've got quite a few, so it was an easy thing for us to do. But again, it just takes time, and just know that the work that you're putting in is valuable and will eventually pay off. Hopefully will pay off, I guess. I'm not going to say that there's always an expected community growth outcome. Like, you can't put in 3 years and just expect to have a community at the end of that. That you might be doing this for a while and not get anywhere with it. It's just it's always difficult to bring in all those outside factors that differ from my own. So again, just be patient and keep coming out to try and get your games in. This next part is really about selling the game, and you want to make the game impressive. So painted models is not something I give people a bunch of guff over. I don't criticize folks for not having their models painted or based or making them look spectacular. But when you are trying to be the catalyst to growing a community, sometimes painted models are just the thing that get people's attention. Like in this photo, I've got, this was one of the more recent games that I played while preparing for Dragonfall. And like my stuff just has some airbrushing on it and then base coats on the rest of the colors that would be discernible pieces, I guess. And that's enough for me to say, like, I guess my hounds don't look really all that finished right now, and neither does Alexia, but that's neither here nor there. At any rate, they kind of stand out on the table a bit. If somebody walks by and sees like your gray resin pile, it's really hard to discern what models they're looking at and what things are cool. Like, we had a person come up in this game and was really interested in the way the Man-O-War looked. And I think that if they were just gray plastic or gray resin, I don't think that would have come across as well. Even my opponent's stuff, just being the blue Zenithal business, is still something that looks fairly impressive, or at least has the details plucked out to where you can see what's going on. Everybody would know that that's an old Umbri model that's across the table from me. Another part about making the game look impressive is to have a cool table. Warmachine's kind of notoriously been known in the past for having the flat terrain issue, and that's good for your tournament style play if you're really wanting to make sure precision is at the forefront of what you're doing. But it seems like Steamforged, with all of the terrain pack releases, is really trying to push the 3D elements, or at least the 2.5D elements. And with this table, we're using the old Umbri tribe stuff, and some of it isn't fully painted yet, but that tower on my opponent's side of the table looks really striking. And I think, to put it in perspective of how many more people came over to check out what we were doing on just a Friday afternoon at Noble Night. Noble Night in Fitchburg, Wisconsin is massive. I'm sure when I say that name, it's not something that people are unfamiliar with that are watching this video. And their in-store location is massive. When you walk in through the front door, you have aisles and aisles and aisles of games, minis, paint, all sorts of things, crafts. It's just a ton of stuff that you have to walk past. Then you get to the registers that then has almost like a fake barrier to the gaming area. And then once you get past the open table area, there's display cabinets and a little discount cave where they have discounted items that they're trying to move. And then finally, after all of that, you get to the wargaming tables. There's 4 of them set up in back with some walls of terrain and some stuff like that Noble Knights collected over the years. And at that point, I think it was 6 people that came up to us on that one Friday morning to ask us about Warmachine. And I don't think they would have been as interested in approaching the table if their eye wasn't caught by the massive amount of terrain that we had. And when I say massive, I mean like that tower is huge, and the little broken building in the middle is pretty impressive as well, even if it wasn't painted. So making the table look interesting just pulls people over. A lot of times, sweet looking terrain is just enough to get people to kind of gravitate towards the table. Even comparing like 40K, I typically will play 40K on like Death Ray Designs GW official terrain or whatever, and that stuff is pretty basic, and it serves its purpose. It's there for tournament purposes, right? And that gets some people's attention. But even like my Malifaux tables that are really immersive and have a lot of cool, like gnarly 3D printed terrain, those will always get so much more attention than my 40K games. Even though 40K is massive and has really big models and some of them look super cool, my Malifaux table with my 8 little dinky dudes running around completing actions gets more attention from passerbys than the 40K stuff would. And I think that's going to ring true for Warmachine as people start branching into being okay with playing with 3D terrain. I think that this is the kind of thing that really gets people interested in what you're doing on the table. Finally, for this section is being approachable. So one of the things that I noticed when I wasn't really in community building mode is that people would come over to the game, they'd kind of like hover around the table like a bumblebee and look at things, and I would maybe say hi to them and then just continue with my game. From a community building standpoint, what I should have tried to do with these people is engage them outside of just saying hello or whatever. Ask them, if they're interested in the game or if they wargame at all. Otherwise, just ask if they have any questions about Warmachine at all. Those are the kind of things that it's just that little extra step that you can take to try and pull people in and get them interested in what you're doing. I think sometimes people crave connection, and in our hobby, there's definitely a spectrum of awkwardness that can come with people. So taking the initiative to start those conversations can be the difference between recruiting a new player and just completely losing a person out of disinterest. So I think being approachable and being authentic is really important. Just being excited about the game and excited to talk about it and kind of have that growth perspective. The final piece I want to touch on is being ready to teach. So with this, whenever you go out to do your game with your battle buddy, you want to make sure that you have a demo set ready and kind of set out. It might not be the most fun thing to have to bring out your demo set and set it up just to not use it or just to pack it away. But it's important to make sure that you remove a bunch of barriers to being able to get the game in. If someone comes up and says they're interested in learning and you're like, oh, let me just set some stuff up, that might be the little push that might be the little thing that pulls them back and says, oh, I don't have the time. And they kind of walk away. But if you have all this stuff set out already and have cool looking models on a cool looking table set to go, that could be the thing that says, yes, I have the time to do this. I can engage with this real quick. And you let them kind of determine how far they want to go with it. But in this photo that I've attached here, I believe this is from Nova and Steamforged. I've seen this type of table set up that they had at Adepticon as well, where it's I believe it's a 2x2, or it might even be like 18x18 or something. I'm not 100% sure. But when you look at the table, it's highly decorated. It's got the carved in trenches so people don't have to use their imagination when they walk over a neoprene note card. And it's got a cool big tower in the backside, a little hill on the other side. It's nice and flocked out and painted well. It has like the cool, nice framed edges in black too. It's just an attractive, striking board that can get somebody's attention. This also, notably, doesn't have a lot of like interactable pieces in between where this Colossal is and where the other players are starting their game from. And I think this isn't something that I haven't put to task yet, but I think Steamforged is starting to recommend that like demos be done with the demoer piloting a Colossal or Gargantuan, and then your demo or your demo participant piloting like a cadre. Now I know they're using like the Signar or the Signar and Winter Core one here, or Khador, I guess, and those ones, I don't know if I'd 100% recommend them for a demo because they're very complicated. But that's probably more nuanced in figuring out what you want to put on the table. But I think the point I'm trying to get at, while I keep chasing around the subject, is that when you have the Colossal, it gives your opponent a singular objective to go after. There's no square they have to stand on. There's no cash they need to do an action by. It's just kill the big stupid thing. And that allows them to interact with the rules and trying to dance outside of its threat ranges, or maybe put things in front of their important stuff, go through the attack rolls, go through the damage rolls and the comparative stats of arm and strength and pow and all that. And utilize the focus mechanic or fury if you're in a like a fury faction. So I think that the point is to get somebody to engage with the core mechanics of Warmachine, and then from there they can say, oh, this is a really neat concept, and you just get to sit there and kind of have an autopilot mode of this Colossal doing what it does. I think maybe you probably just do like your initials and don't have things to boost or whatever, just to kind of make it so it's an experience for the person. And their object doesn't have to be completely kill the Colossal. Like, you don't need to sit there and watch them dirtle on it for 8 turns if they don't have the tools to do that. It can just be to get them through the basic mechanics of the game. So having your demo set ready, especially if it's one that looks as enticing as this, is really important. The other thing is that both you and your partner that comes out with you to these game nights need to be aware that you might not be finishing the game that you started. If you're practicing for an event and you have this mid-game, like say your turn 4 and you have this crazy assassination or scenario play that you're like 30% through engineering, and someone comes up saying they want a demo, you kind of have to be okay with putting down that turn and saying, we can revisit this after the demo, or we might just have to pack it up and not finish this game out if the demo goes long and we start talking. When you're focused on growth, that really should be the big thing that you're trying to push. So trying to tell someone to wait until you've done this like masterful plan thing might not always be the best in trying to capture them. When someone is willing to get into something with you, that's the best time you have to kind of capture their attention. So making sure that your opponent, or that your regular opponent, is understanding that we might not finish the game when we come out to play is definitely something to make sure that everyone understands. I hope this video helps you get some ideas on how to revitalize or regrow a community with a new pool of players. I have to say, I've been really lucky in the situations that I've found myself in where I've been able to engage in community growth and try and see the returns come back from that. The area that I live in seems to be really conducive to it, even though we're in a small one. But there are definitely things you can do if some of this stuff doesn't work for you. Like if you don't have the regular opponent, like if you're doing this on your own, find out if your store has another game night with other war gamers. Come out, sit down, and just paint some Warmachine models. There might be some people who come up and say, oh, I've never seen these in the flesh before, so I want to check them out. Like, war gamers just seem like we're attracted to cool things, I think. And having, like Magnus and Invictus is the thumbnail for this for a reason. I think it's one of the most impressive looking pieces that Steamforged / Privateer have done for Mark IV. And it being the poster child of Mark IV right now is like not a coincidence. It's just impressive. And I think that it exudes everything about Warmachine, a big, brutal steamjack with this massive, a steam-driven warjack, I guess, with this massive ball and chain and a chainsaw for a weapon. It's just gnarly, and I think that kind of thing really pulls people into the game. So doing something like that just to try and get people's eyes on the game and let folks know that there are people who play this game around here, or people that are interested in wanting to play this game around here, is valuable. I think one of the final things I'll leave you with that's kind of more end game or mid-stage community growth is I think it's so important to establish a network of organizers. So one of the reasons why some of the activities in my local community sustain themselves so well is that we've established a group of people who rotate through event organization, whether that's painting nights, painting competitions, tournaments that we run. In 1 year worth of tournaments, we run monthly tournaments. There is not a single person that repeats running unless they really, really want to. And sometimes we might have months go by where we have 2 big events. And having that cohesive group of organizers, of motivators working together really makes it so that you don't have to be the only person always organizing these events and always being excluded from being able to play in them. As much as I love to watch the community grow around me, I also like to engage in the game, because the whole reason why I got into this is because I like playing the game. So being able to participate in those and not always have to worry about sacrificing my Saturday to run a tournament is really valuable. So having like a network of co-contributors is super important. Outside that, I open an invitation for comments about any struggles you've had in community building or any successes you've had in community building that you think might be helpful for people here. I don't want to stave off like negative comments. I think that everything is valuable in some way, shape, or form, whether it shows someone the pitfalls to avoid or kind of helps people correct from a path they've gone down. Everything I think is worth talking about when it comes to community organization. I think it's all just pointing towards tools that can help us do the thing we want to do better. So I look forward to seeing your responses in the comment section, and I also look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks for sticking with me.